Hello and welcome to the Streaming Parson Podcast. And yes, it's been ages since I've done one of these. And today, well, I decided I was going to do something that I haven't ever done on this channel. At least to my knowledge. I haven't done like a tier list of any kind. And I was like, if I was to make a tier list of something, what would I make a tier list of? And that tier list I have chosen is from a game franchise that I've mentioned a few times on the channel, but never really like. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. That I've never really like talked about in a lot of detail, and that is from the franchise Dig Delight Direct Drive DJ, or D4DJ for short. And I decided I was going to do a tier list of all the characters, all the band girls, I guess you could say, or the D-Unit girls, I guess is more accurate. And so, we have our tier list here. I'm just using a tier list site to do this. I didn't like download it myself, so I'll try and get this all done in one go. We'll see how long it takes me to do this. So basically, I guess a caveat is that I will probably use the game as the source material, because I mean, if you think about it, the game is the source material. Although I will put the 2 seasons of I'll put the 2 seasons of the anime into consideration. Of course, the first season and the game kind of line up because the game kind of takes place after the first season, but the second season of the anime, which I will reference from here to there, does diverge quite a bit from the game. So that's just a caveat I'm going to mention. So I will probably go with the order that they've given us here. I could probably dig through this and pick out, you know what, I will do it the proper way. So I'm going to go unit by unit, and I'll go like in order, I guess, to the best of my abilities. So that's enough me yammering about useless stuff. Let's tier some D4DJ girls. And the first one is Rinku Aimoto from Happy Around. We're going to do Happy Around first. Do I actually have the criteria of rating them? Obviously, we're going to rate them on their musical ability, we're going to rate them on their appearance, we're going to rate them on various cards that they have in the game version. And if I was to give Rinku, I mean, I guess the problem with that last criteria is that since there's so many different cards, and I don't have all of them as I play through the phone game, because yes, I'm going to confess that I do play the phone game, and I like it quite a bit. So, but I will like mention some stuff in the game as I rate them, obviously, because as I did mention, I will be using the game as the source material. I'm going to put Rinku in B tier, starting off hot, and have Rinku in the B tier. And the thing about the reason why I'm just gonna put Rinku in the B tier is because she's kind of just like, she's not like total mid. Like C tier would be the like just kind of mid, but Rinku does have quite a few like very likable qualities about her. And you know, it's the whole like being happy around that. You know, she really is like the kind of character that like you kind of enjoy watching her, because she is the life of the party. And so she does bump up from the C tier, which would be kind of like meh, but I will put her in B tier. On a personal level, Riku's not my favorite character. I like her a lot, but even among like the Happy Around girls, let alone like the entire D4DJ franchise, Riku's not. I would have put her as one of my favorite girls. So I'm just gonna put her in B tier because even though she has a good character, her singing voice, I do like her singing voice quite a bit. Although I remember I was playing like D4DJ music at work, and somebody like brought up the topic of like chipmunk music, because I guess he was insinuating that Rinku sounds like a chipmunk. I can never remember all the actresses' names, and forgive me for that. But we're just gonna say that Rinku's voice actor, when she does the Rinku voice, she does like up her pitch quite a bit, which does like give off that vibe of like the chipmunky or like nightcore kind of sound. And I think that's what they were going for with Rinku, that nightcore sound. And if that was actually Bushiroad's intention, I think that's actually very cleverly done. As far as, well, I guess, character in like the, I guess I'll talk more about it, because we'll talk more about the Happy Around girls. And then we'll kind of obviously talk about how the girls relate to each other. Next we have Maho, and Maho goes to the S tier. Maho is probably one of my favorite characters in D4DJ. And no, it's not because I'm like, I kind of like how she's supposed to be the smart one of the group, but at the same time, I think the show kind of shows you that teenage charm where she kind of has those airheaded moments, and that's kind of really fun to watch, where Maho's kind of oblivious to certain things, primarily about herself, and you know, one of the anime tropes is that Maho is supposed to be like the hot one and Happy Around. And I guess I'll kind of mention how like each group within like D4DJ, they have like, each character takes like one of the token tropes. So you have the hot one in the group, and Happy Around, that would be Maho. Then you would have the cute one. You have D4DJ kind of does like one of the, each band has like a fat girl in the group, and that would be Rinku. Rinku's the fat girl of the group, if you will. And so, anyway, back to Maho though. Maho, part of the charm is that like she's kind of oblivious, and it's one of those things that like kind of poking at like that. I guess this is me speaking as an old man, but something you notice in teenagers as an older person is that like, as much as teenagers like to talk mad about like how smart they are compared to their peers, they'll do and say things that just kind of give off like like they kind of have an airhead moment, and it kind of brings them back to like reality of like, you're a teenager, you're young, you don't quite know as much as you think you do, and you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, and that's something a teenager needs to learn. Maho is that character for not just like Happy Around, but for a lot of D4DJ. Of course, like all the other characters kind of have that to some degree, but like for example with Maho, like one part where she's kind of like a total airhead is where in the first season episode, I think it's episode 6, the one where they go to Ray's house for the first time, and the bath scene with Maho, and she kind of forgets the whole reason why they're even at her house. And then she has like that, like she remembers and then like freaks out about it. And then she does that again. She does that again later on in the series as well. Like Maho's just kind of like forgetful about things, and it just reminds you that like, even though she's supposed to be the smart one of the group, she has those moments where she's like, oh, whoops. Another thing too is that like the whole Maho being the hot one of the group. It's funny how like in the phone game there are a lot more like how do I put it? They're a lot more blatant with it. And so quite a number of her cards has her in like very suggestive positions, which is weird for me to say because of like, you know, I'm a dude in my mid-30s talking about like a 17-year-old girl. So awkward. But like the phone game definitely shows like, has a lot of moments that has like Maho accentuating her body. And I mean, even in the anime, in the first season, Maho's like the character with the most like bath scenes. She has like 3. Heck, episode 9 even opens with her in the shower, almost for the sake of it. Just to be like, hey, Maho's the hot one. Remember that, guys. And then of course, like in the second season, in the very last episode, they just had to throw a moment where like Maho's in the bath. Just to, like, have a lot of those moments where like Maho's being like the most sexualized character. One story arc that I found was really nice with Maho was her relation story with Saki, and how what's interesting is that like even though Maho is a very confident person, she actually like has a massive inferiority complex, which was actually a very interesting dynamic of her character to see. So that was actually a very interesting story, and I'll talk more about that story when we get to Saki. But Maho S tier, because she's one of my favorites. I really like her. Next we have, where is she? Mooney? Mooney's gonna be A tier. Yeah, I know some people are gonna think this is like a bullshit list now, because I put Mooney above Rinku. Which some of you might think that's just pure blasphemy. But Mooney's grown on me quite a bit over the years, because actually when I first watched the anime, Mooney was my least favorite character. And that was because, like, you know, Mooney's that typical, how do I put it? She's a very typical, very self-centered, and kind of petty. But as I played through the phone game, and you get, like, a lot of these Mooney-centric events, like when they had the firework one and the Christmas event even, or the Christmas card of Mooney. Mooney's character really like grew on me, and when Mooney was a lot more vulnerable, I found her to be very charming and quirky and cute. I mean, that's why she's the cute one of the group. I think her quirky and cute nature is actually what makes her very likable. Even though at first I wasn't the hugest fan of Mooney, but I actually really came to like Mooney quite a lot. Like, if I had never played the phone game and only had the first season of the anime, and even the second season of the anime, because I don't think the anime does Mooney a lot of justice. I kind of felt like the anime was very lacking with Mooney's character development. In the second season, I mean, I guess an overall take of the second season of the anime was that because there's just so many characters, it's really hard to like develop characters well. And that's why, as I mentioned before, you have to really treat the phone game as like the source material. And the nature of, and with that being said, the anime didn't do Mooney a lot of justice in developing her character. And that's why, like, if I was to go off the anime alone, I probably would have put Mooney in like C or even D tier. But in the game, Mooney's character really grew on me, and I really felt that as she became more vulnerable with other people, not just like with girls in the Happy Around group, but with other people, I felt like she really improved her character, and her character has a lot more interesting aspects to it. So Mooney A tier. Where do I gotta put Ray? Oh, that's a tough one. It's still pretty high. Let's be real. I'm gonna just say this now, but I can't think of a girl I actually like dislike. I don't think anyone's gonna fall in the F tier. But there'll probably be very few in the E tier, because I actually really like a lot of the characters in D4DJ. I'm gonna put Ray in B tier. It's a tough one, because like she'd be somewhere. Okay, by the way, I should probably mention that I'm not gonna put them in like any order within the tier, just to say that now. That's too much work. Maybe if there's like only a few in S tier, then I might bounce them around, but I'm not gonna put them in order. Like, I'm not gonna put Ray above Rinku. I might like Ray a bit more than Rinku, but I mean, there's not a lot to say about Ray. Ray is just your typical dark-haired beauty that's kind of slow on the uptake. And that's all there really is to her. See, unlike Mooney, I feel like Rei hasn't grown as much as a character. And especially when like I compare her to the phone game and the anime, Rei does very little growth, and because of that, I feel that she's a lot weaker as a character. I will say though, and this is kind of, I know someone might like rage at me or at this or something, but I'm also gonna have Rei stay in the B tier and not bump her up, because I'm gonna be in that camp where her old actor Canon really did Rei's singing voice so well. I really like Canon's singing voice, whereas like not like the new singer is bad, and when you hear her sing "Look at Me," she like the new actor is pretty good, but I think Canon really made a dimension to Rei that didn't exist, and it doesn't exist now, unfortunately. I remember reading a YouTube comment a while back, I can't remember where it is and who said it, but someone mentioned that like Rei was made based on Canon's character, so with the actor gone, Rei kind of loses a bit of that like identity in her singing, and that's kind of that's why I can't bump Rei up, even though I used to like Rei a lot. And to be fair, I do like Rei's design though. Rei has like really good design. In the phone game, when you get like the different cards, I think Rei has some of the better designs. Even though like Maho's like the hot one, but I think there's like me just being an old man and not trying to get myself thrown in jail. But Maho is a bit too sexualized in a lot of her cards, and you lose a little bit of that like classy nature that Rei does have. And so I think Rei has like really good designs, but I think I'm gonna have to keep her in B tier because like I don't want to say the new voice actor is bad. She's not, but at the same time, I think Canon brought a life to the character that just isn't there anymore, and it's a shame because like Rei is very likable, all things considered. Next we have Kyoko from Piki, and Kyoko, I'll put Kyoko in B tier as well, because while Kyoko is a very cool character, and I mean Amy's voice is just amazing, and her singing, and Kyoko is like an amazing singing voice. But similar to Rei, I feel like she's very one-dimensional in like her character cards. Now there was that whole thing where like they wanted to kind of improve Kyoko's character with the side origin Tiki version in the phone game event, and in that one is where Kyoko has a little bit of introspection after losing a student council election with Ibuki. But that's like the exception, and hardly from the rule for Kyoko, because half the time, if you think about it, Kyoko's actually a pretty terrible person. she's straight up a bully. And I mean, if you look in the anime for sure, like Kyoko's actually pretty terrible. Which makes you wonder why Rinku looks up to her. Like, she bullies her best friend Shinobu, like, she's terrible. But, I mean, aside from that, she's also kind of one-note as well. Also, like, for instance, like, Kyoko kind of, I mean, this is me super nitpicking, but Kyoko almost appears hypocritical, where, like, she makes fun of Rinku being a fat girl in the 7th episode of the first season. But you play the phone game, and then it's revealed Kyoko's the fat girl of Piki Piki, because she's always like, oh man, I'm craving a hamburger. I gotta have like a hamburger. Oh, is there a hamburger at I gotta go to the hamburger stall at D-Fest. And she mentions it both times in the D-Fest events. And so like, I don't know, that double-minded nature of Kyoko kind of like bumps her down. I wouldn't put her C tier though, because her singing voice is like super good, and Amy just like is killing it. So B tier you go. Where is Shinobu? I'm trying to look for her here. Oh, there she is. I feel someone's gonna call me on like my weird biases, and I just deal with it. But Shinobu in A tier. Now Shinobu's kind of a bully like Kyoko. I mean, all the peaky girls are kind of bullies if you think about it. But Shinobu is just super charming. And excuse me. I guess the better word for Shinobu is she's very endearing. So even though she can be kind of snobbish, Shinobu is very endearing as a character. And I think because of that, I'm willing to put her up to A tier. The anime does a lot more justice for Shinobu than it does Kyoko. And I think that's why I kind of bumped her up to an A tier. In the game though, Shinobu is similar to Kyoko in that she's kind of one note. There's not as much growth in her character. You don't really see her... Like, you don't really see many dimensions to her personality because there's hardly any need for her personality to change. She's bratty at times, and so maybe I might actually bump her down to B tier actually. But the thing is, see, the reason why I like this is gonna sound mega weird, but like I don't know, I really think Shinobu's like super cute. So her aesthetics and her like cards, her game cards, give her that edge over Kyoko. Because I don't know, a lot of the Shinobu cards in the phone game are super cute. I like all the Shinobu ones. Well, maybe not quite all of them, but you get the idea. I really like Shinobu's game cards. They're really cute, and I like them. So she gets that edge over Kyoko and even like Rinku and Rei. Next we have, I think technically Yuka is the next member, and Yuka kind of mid, because even though like Yuka definitely has like very likable character traits of being like very encouraging, and she always desires to help people. And what's interesting about Yuka's character is that even though she's arguably one of the youngest characters before they added the Unicorn characters, but before the Unicorn characters, technically Yuka is one of the youngest characters. I think the other one is Miyu. Miyu is the youngest character, save for Unicorn. And because of that, what makes Yuka kind of interesting is that Yuka's very insightful, despite the fact that she's younger than everyone else, which is kind of funny. Where like one thing that you realize when you're watching the first season of the anime again, and in the episode where Rinku and Yuka talk, because Yuka's like taking pictures of her abs, and Rinku's acting like a little kid, but the funny thing is that like Rinku is older than Yuka by like 5 months. It's kind of funny. But Yuka does have that maturity. And even though, like, after saying all these praises about Yuka, you think I'd rate her higher. But honestly, aside from that, I think that Yuka doesn't have much else going for her that I really like. And I guess that's another problem of this tier list, because like most of this is my opinion, so you just gotta deal with it. But Yuka doesn't really have much else going for her. And so I can't really say that I like a lot of other aspects of Yuka. Esther, on the other hand, Esther's a tough one. Esther probably B tier. Nah, she's C tier. Because at least Yuka has like the whole teaching Ibuki and other older girls some like lines of wisdom. Esther doesn't really have much going for her. I was almost gonna bump her up because I think Esra has like way better like game designs, and her card designs are just better. Like Esra is supposed to be like the lovely member and arguably the hot one of the group. And I mean that was kind of shown in that whole like the second DFAS, where the characters were like mixed and matched into different groups, and one of the groups was like Esra, Hero, Marika, and Maho, and they're like supposed to be the hot girl group because they're all like the hot members of their groups respectively. And so that's why Esra has like the better designs, but I'm not gonna bump her up a whole tier because of that. But at the same time, like, see, that's why like I'm not gonna put her in D tier though, because like Esra is good enough that like she can stay out of the D tier. But aside from like her appearance, Esra really doesn't have much going for her. So that's all I can say about Esra. I don't have much else to say about her. Which goes to show that like she has very little character to really talk about. Next we have Photon Maiden. Technically Saki's the first member of the group. That's like every time you see the group and like you look at the game, she's always the one who's put first. And Saki S tier. Heck, let's just end this argument now. Saki's gonna be like the first place and Saki best girl. Yeah, Saki's my favorite character in D4DJ. Which is weird because, well, it's not weird, but like, one thing that stands out as Saki, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I guess like, I'm not trying to make like an association with like, because I would not claim that I have autism. I'm not gonna make that claim. But you guys can tell that like I have some like, I'm not all there. And Saki clearly like is the character in D4DJ where they actually really tackle like the issue of autism. Now, one of the things is that some people think Maho has a little bit of autism because Maho has like her airheaded moments and she can kind of lose track of things and she's not self-aware of like the fact that she's the hot one of Happy Around. But I wouldn't really consider that like autism, and if it were, it's not like high degree. Saki, on the other hand, has like clinical levels of autism, and it's done in an interesting way. Because of course, how the story presents it is that it's the explanation for her weird color seeing ability, where she sees like colors and sounds, and it's because like Saki's mind just works differently from everyone else's. But what's actually kind of funny, and this is more in the phone game, you don't notice this in the anime, but in the phone game, Saki will actually say things that are just straight out offensive. And just like flat out mean. But on the one hand, you don't notice it because one, Saki has a very meek voice, so you don't get the impression that she's being mean. But it's kind of how the story's way of like showing Saki's autism. And her autism's reflected in that she's not totally aware of what she's saying and what it could mean to someone else. Which would make people think that Saki's a bad character because it almost makes it feel like Saki's unempathetic. And of course, this was really fleshed out in the relation event between Saki and Maho, where Saki even gets called out for being insensitive. And she even gets called obtuse, which is kind of funny. And Saki's like kind of shocked. But throughout, like, there's one part where she like straight up just like roasts Ibuki in the cat event. Now I know I'm referring to more recent events because they're more fresh in memory. She actually says something that's like flat out offensive to Ibuki, but Ibuki kind of just like lets it go, and that's just because like Ibuki's super nice, and the Photon Maiden girls let Saki get away with some of the like really insensitive things she says because they understand that she has autism. And so like Ibuki and them are really like lenient toward her, and I mean like Noah just being a freak, right? So it's not like they're gonna like be mean to Saki about her autism or call her out on being insensitive. But it is kind of interesting that like Saki is how like D4DJ handles autism. It's an interesting take. It is a very interesting take because Saki would be someone that she would be clinically diagnosed with like, I can't remember what the actual like term of like what degree her autism is, but it's actually like a real medically like she would be medically treated for autism. But despite that, nah, Saki is the best girl. Riza's singing voice is phenomenal. Especially when she does Saki's singing voice. Because like this is the same girl who's like Choo Choo and Bang Dream. And you're like, what? This is the same person? But nah, like her singing is just phenomenal. She is the cutest character. You look at all those like her gacha cards in the phone game and you're just like, wow, Saki's so cute. She's the cutest girl by far. Okay, maybe not by far, but she is like head and shoulders above a lot of the other girls. There might be a few people who try to like run her up on being cute, on like the cuteness scale, but there's a reason why Noah's such a freak. And that, like, Saki is, yeah, she's the perfectly good reason why Noah's such a freak. Speaking of Noah, though, let's do her next, just because we're talking about her. And Noah's gonna go in the B tier. Because while Noah is a neat character, she's also, I think her, like, when she goes like too much in her, like, she likes cute things, it does get a little bit silly. And there's even a part where, like, I'm almost tempted to bump her down to C tier, because there's a part where, like, Noah borderlines, like, child predator. And I can't believe, like, they actually put that D4DJ in the, it was the, I can't remember what the event was called. And there was the one where, there was Rei, Saki, I think it was Miko, and, I can't remember who the other character was, but there was like the detective kind of banner. And in that event, there's a part where they're like looking for this person. The girls are looking for this person. They go to a school, and Noah's just spying on children. And you're just like, what's going on here? I can't believe they actually put that. I can't believe they actually put that in the game. I can't believe they put that in the game. Where, yeah, like, Noah's just, like, watching children, and you're like, that's mad sus. And so, like, I don't know, it's super weird. I'm gonna actually look up in my phone, on my phone, which event it was. So I'm not just, like, so that I actually have, like, actual, reference for you. It's the Detective Agency and the Mysterious Phantom event. And in that event, it was Miyu, by the way. But in that event, that's the one where, like, Noah's, like, being a total freak. And she's, like, spying on children, and you're like, whoa there. And so I'm gonna have to, I was tempted to bump her down to C tier because of that, but what's interesting is that, like, Noah's arguably, like, the smartest character. And, like, what's interesting is that, like, she's supposed to be, like, a straight A student, because you learn that in her, in the Kurumi and Noah event, you learn that Noah is actually, like, a straight A student. She's, like, super smart. And so, unlike, you know, say, like, the Happy Around girls where they're, like, cramming for fall finals, because half of them are really stupid. Riku. But I kind of like the smart girl part of Noah. In the 7th episode of the 2nd season of the anime, really, like, tried to show that off, where like she's like quoting all these like philosophers. And that part is kind of endearing to me because, you know, being the massive nerd that I am, you know, I appreciate a super smart girl. So that's why I have to put her up to B tier. Next we have Ibuki. Ibuki go B tier. You kind of gotta see a trend here, but I like Ibuki a lot. But the problem with Ibuki is she's kind of very one note. So she's kind of in the same camp as like Kyoko for me, where she's very one note. And so because of that, I can't really rate her high. I can't rate her highly because there's nothing that like stands out to me about her either. And because of that, I mean, she's good, but I can't like say she's amazing. Although, like, one thing I will say though, that really made Ibuki kind of really stand out for me was in her, I can't remember, what card was it? It was the one where she talks about, someone can probably comment on this, but it was the one where she talks about her past and how, like, because Ibuki kind of has like a standoff personality, she actually caused rifts with like old classmates, which like in the track team or whatever. And Ibuki is like driven by guilt, which makes her like act a lot more cautiously around people because she's scared of doing that again. And it you know, with that I kind of related to that quite a bit because I mean, as I become an adult, I find that I can be very standoffish. And something that you're, you know, as an adult, you definitely watch out for this. But even though you feel you know what people need to do, you also want to be careful not to like wreck your relationships with other people. And that's something that I really related with Ibuki about. And so that's why Ibuki's gonna be in the B tier. Be in the B tier. Because I can't bump her down, even though she's very one note, similar to Yuka, which is why they're such good friends, right? But I think that relatability with Ibuki that I have, I will bump her up to B tier. Excuse me. Next we have Noah. Sorry, not Noah. Toa. Toa A tier. Toa's super cute. Whoops, I'm sorry. Toa's super cute. I really like her. And her voice actor, I can't remember her name for the life of me. You know what? I have my phone here. Why don't I just look this up? Alright, so what's Toa's voice actor name again? Iwata Haruki. Okay, so Iwata-san, she does that really quirky voice that Toa has, and just like with Mooney, just like with Shinobu, and hence being like supposedly the cute girl of the group, although Saki takes like the cute and hot girl of the group. Saki just takes everything, which is why she's best girl. But Toa is also super quirky and super cute. And one thing I don't know, one of those moments when I was watching the second season of the anime, and I just burst out laughing, was in the 7th episode, the Photon Maiden episode, when the girls are having a meeting about like what they're gonna do for a new song, and Toa's like, "Hey, here's an idea. I want to do something really cute and fun, like happy around." And then the Ibuki's like, "What do you mean?" And then she's like, the scene switches to Mooney is Awesome song, but replaced with the Photon Maiden girls. And I just found that scene so funny. I don't know why it's so funny. It was just hilarious. And Toa coming up with that crazy idea, it's just funny to me. And it makes her like super quirky and cute. Another thing that like also makes Towa stand out. Because, okay, before I actually talk about this next part, something that, like, I know some people might rate Towa lower, because Towa can be, like, you know, she's kind of meant to be, like, a comic relief character. I mean, it's a... D4DJ is like a comedy, so, right? Everybody's a comic relief character. But, like, Towa really cranks that up to a whole new level. But Towa's also very, like... She can be over the top in, like, that being a comedic character, which some people might find that a little off-putting. But I never found that to be too annoying. I mean, it's a music anime. What do you expect? Like, everybody's got to be, like, over the top. But one part I also found that was pretty great about Towa was in the relation event with her and Marika. And the part where Marika's, like, getting creeped on by the director of the show they're working on. And then, like, Towa's just, like, comes up with this on-the-spur crazy moment to, like, help Marika out. And she's like, hey, who wants to watch me, like, down this mafu tofu? And I just found that so funny. I guess that's why I have to put, like, Towa in A tier. Almost S tier, but no, I don't think she's quite S tier for me. But she's pretty close. But Towa just had, like, that, like, there's a lot of moments Towa has that I just have to laugh out loud. Because Towa's just that funny. And so that's why she's easily an A tier. I think what prevents her from being an S tier is that despite being like super cute, because I think Towa's like super cute, her cards in Groovy Mix don't quite hit as hard, oddly enough. She doesn't have the best like Groovy Mix cards, which is weird. I don't find them to be as appealing as a lot of the other ones. Like, Rinku and Ray have a lot of better, like, Groovy Mix cards, which is weird. But I like Towa's character a lot. I guess Mermaid would be next. I know people are gonna call me out if I don't put her in S tier. Maybe I might change my mind. I'll put Rika in A tier for now. Nah, screw it. I'm gonna put S tier. And the reason why she's going up to S tier now is because Double Mix and her event with Tsubaki in Groovy Mix, the Valentine's event for this year. And it just bumped up Rika for me. I mean, Rika was already a great girl. I like Rika a lot. But I think Double Mix and the relation event with Tsubaki really just solidified that, yeah, she's going to S tier. Because one of the things that makes Rika's character stand out is her relationship with Tsubaki and how they are that, like, fire and ice, you know, the opposites attract kind of thing. And I really like that side of Rika where, like, she really draws out the better parts of Tsubaki. And, like, Tsubaki's character, when I get to rating her, I'll definitely bump her up because Tsubaki's character in that relation event was just phenomenal. And Rika and Tsubaki's dynamic with each other is so wholesome. It's so enjoyable. It's some of the better events to read. And one thing that's always fun is even in, like, other events where they'll have, like, Rondo and Mermaid, like, collaborate, and they have, like, Rika and Tsubaki interact. It's actually some of the best stuff to, like, read in Movie Mix. And of course, Double Mix made it an actual, like, anime episode of their dynamic, which is what I really like about them. And let's be real, like, something that's kind of funny too is that, like, Rika somehow is like, I mean, the funny thing about the mermaid girls is that they're all super hot. They're supposed to be like the hot girls in D4DJ. But like, Rika's able to maintain that while like being the fat girl of the group too. Because she's the one who's like always eating. And so I always found that kind of funny. Rika has a great design. I mean, once again, like, all the mermaid girls have great designs. But I'm not going to put them all in S tier, just because of that. But I think Rika's designs in the game are just, like, phenomenally good. And I mean, when you go on Groovy Mix, and you, like, look at the ticket gotchas always show, like, Rika. Because the game wants you to know that, like, yeah, Rika's super hot. You should use your tickets and try and summon. See, here's Rika. That's a good reason, right? That's hacking your brain right there. Marika or Marika. I think it is Marika though. You know what? I'm gonna make a hot take, but I'm gonna put Marika in B tier. Because even though, like, there's a lot of things about her that I really like. For instance, in a lot of the Mermaid songs, when Marika does the bridge, and she does the bridge for a number of Mermaid songs, like, damn, Marika just killing it. But one of the things that I kind of put her lower is because she's also very one-dimensional as a character. Now, the one time where they showed quite a bit of character growth is that, like, in the Marika and Toa event, Toa kind of tells her to, like, just do what you want in life, you know, don't just feel pressured because of your station. And then that's where Marika, like, tells off that director who's, like, being a total creep. But other than that, like, Marika also shows very little development. She does, I mean, I guess the whole purpose of Marika's function in Mermaid, and maybe I will bump her up because of this, and because I'm more understanding of it, I guess. But Marika is supposed to be, she's supposed to be the rock of the team. Because, and what do I mean by that? Is probably what you're wondering. So, Rika is impulsive. But of course, Rika is also super lucky. That's why, like, Rika never gets punished for being as impulsive as she is. Saori is the character that she's very insecure about herself. But Saori, and thus that puts Saori on the road for, like, the most character development. But then Dahlia is kind of a weird one where, even though you would think Dahlia would be the rock of the team, because, you know, Dahlia is, like, super tough, but Dahlia also shows that, like, a lot of that toughness of her character, in Groovy Mix, a lot of it is actually a facade, in that Dahlia has a lot of things that she's very vulnerable to, and sure, part of that's, like, endearing, but at the same time, it makes her kind of unreliable. And so because of that, Marika is the one who's stable. She's the stable one in the group. And so that's where, like, even though Marika doesn't grow much as a character, I guess part of that is because she's just meant to be stable. She's meant to hold the rest of the mermaid girls in check, because all the other mermaid girls are all volatile. So I guess A for Marika, because she puts up with the other girls' volatility? I think that's the word for it. Yeah, let's talk about Dahlia. No, she's not in C tier. I'll put her B tier. Dahlia is a character that I originally didn't like very much earlier in the series, but as I played through as Groovy Mix, Dahlia's grown on me a bit. Not as much as Mooney has, but Dahlia's grown on me quite a bit, and I think Dahlia's character, once again, like, part of her whole, like, as I mentioned before, she appears to be like the tough one of the group, but she's also very sensitive and is actually scared of a lot of things, and a little bit unstable at times. And I know the game paints it as like it's to be endearing, because of course the lesson you're supposed to take from Dahlia's character is that it's okay to not be perfect. That's kind of the whole point of Dahlia's character, and that's an important lesson to learn from. Is that it's okay to not be perfect, and it's meant to be endearing. So I wouldn't like say that's a bad thing about Dahlia, but sometimes like in Groovy Mix, you kind of feel like a bit of that is forced. And once again, that's only something you see in Groovy Mix. In the anime, you never see this. You never see Dahlia have like more vulnerable moments for the audience. And in the one Mermaid episode, because Mermaid got the least screen time in the anime. Like Dahlia hardly does anything in it. It kind of sucks. She doesn't really do much. So I'm gonna put Dahlia in B tier. Although I will say I do like Dahlia's design. I think she has one of the better designs in all of D4DJ even. It was a bold claim, even though I only put her in the B tier. But she doesn't... I don't know, I just don't like her as much as other characters. And that's why like I'm just leaving her in the B tier. Saori. Is Saori good enough to be bumped into A tier? She's like easily B tier. Couldn't be an A tier though. Because what makes Saori a great character is that Saori is the character that shows some of the most growth in D4DJ. And so I'm gonna put her in A tier. Because oh my goodness, my heart was just like, oh, I'm so happy for you in the relation event with Saori and Miyu. And when you see Saori's growth, and I was just like blown away. I was just like, wow, Saori's a great character. And, I mean, to be fair, like when they started doing the cross-group relation events, so what I mean by cross-group is that you would have two characters from different units, and they would have the relation event. Because of course, in the first 2 years of the game, all the relation events were like characters within their own unit, i.e. Saori and Rika had one, and then Saori had her next relation event not long after that with Miyu. And in that one, it was, by then like the writers were a lot more confident in their writing and how to like develop their characters, and with Miyu and Saori being the first cross-unit relation event, they really nailed it out of the park. And the dynamic really shows because, of course, the tension is that Miyu is still a child, and she still thinks like one. But Saori has grown so much from like the insecure, overly like anxious and shy. She changes from that to being very mature in that event, and even in subsequent events after that. There wasn't that many with Saori, but in subsequent events from that even, Saori shows a lot more maturity, and I really like that about her. I think Saori's grown on me a lot, because if it wasn't for that, honestly, Saori'd be like down here. But like Saori just grew that much for me, and she had become like a favorite even. Like I really like Saori. Saori also, like, even though the mermaid girls are also like really like they're all the hot girls of D4DJ, Saori still has like a cuteness to her that I really like. So yeah, I like Saori a lot. So easy A tier. Next we move on to Rondo. Where's Aoi? Now Aoi gonna be B tier. It's not that I dislike Aoi. Like I said, I don't like dislike any of the characters. There's no character that you can actually dislike. Mooney was the only character that was like close to that. Well, okay, maybe not just Mooney. There's like one other person, but we'll get to that later. Aoi doesn't really do much for me. there's not a lot. Like, I guess maybe because I don't have enough, like, AOE cards to, like, explore a lot more of the story for AOE, but AOE doesn't really do much for me. Now, I know one thing that makes AOE stand out, though, because of, like, AOE's androgynous nature in D4DJ. When they make event cards for AOE, AOE gets, like, male characters. So, for instance, in that one where Rondo's, like, in maid outfits, so you have Nagisa, Tsubaki, and Hiro in maid outfits, they put AOE in a butler suit. And, you know, that's fun and it's cool to do. And AOE does look really good in them. But, at the same time, like, sure there was that unique flair for AOE, but when you dress up a girl in a, like, butler suit, it doesn't quite do it as opposed to, like, maid outfits, right? I mean, the butler suit's cool and all, but maid outfits still win. So, that, like, detracts from AOE's design, and so AOE loses points in the design department because of that. And so, but at the same time, like, it's not like I don't dislike AOE, but AOE also doesn't really do much for me. So, like, AOE's kind of like, see, I've always tended to put AOE in mid, like, AOE kind of mid. Although, I will bump AOE back up because of, once again, it's like, I guess the relation gotchas, whoever writes for the relation gotchas really knows how to write good stuff, because that AOE and Haruna relation event, where you see more vulnerable sides to AOE, I actually like that part. Of course, I know everyone hates that event because, like, there's that whole thing with, like, Haruna really, like, simping for AOE, but it's like, AOE's an adult and Haruna's a minor. But, minus that aspect, I think AOE being a lot more vulnerable in that event, in that story, was actually very endearing to me. So that's why I'm gonna bump up AOE to a B. Even though, like, AOE would fit in C, I'm willing to bump up AOE to a B. Alright, next we have... Where is she? Nope. Tsubaki. Let's put Tsubaki next to AOE. I was tempted to put Tsubaki in A because of, like, her relation. No, I was put her on A. Now I'll put her back down to B. Because, for me, I actually wasn't the hugest fan of Tsubaki, but her relationship with Rika is what makes her likable. And so, if it wasn't for that, I would probably even put her, like, as low as D tier if it wasn't for Rika. But because Rika really draws out all the better qualities of Tsubaki, I'm bumping Tsubaki up to a B. And that, once again, that, like, relation event with Rika and Tsubaki was just, like, hitting all the right notes. It was just so good. I am tempted to put Tsubaki in A tier because her singing voice is super good. But I can't, like, throw her over, like, Kyoko now, because both of them have, like, phenomenal singing voices. But, like, for instance, whenever I listen to Fake Off, when Tsubaki sings in Fake Off, it's just like, oh, you know, like, it's so good. And then the other thing too is that, like, when I listen to, like, D4DJ music, I always have a good time. I mean, I always have a good time with all the music because it's all pretty good. But when the Rondo music comes on, it's like Tsubaki's voice is what hits. I really like the Rondo songs because of her. And so, you might think I might bump her up, but aside from that, like, Tsubaki started out as a character I actually didn't like, and then she grew on me because of her relationship with Rika. Speaking of Rika and Tsubaki's relation event, though, I was that guy if you look in the phone game and you look at the comments of the stories, I was the guy who said, yo, Rika's brother looking like a Giga Chad because he has all these hot girls visiting him in the hospital. It was... But anyway, I wish Rika's brother was here somewhere, because I put him in the S tier as well, but because that dude is a Giga Chad. But anyway, that's all I can say about Tsubaki. Her designs in the game are okay, but we all know her designs don't match up to Hero. But I'll put Hero in D tier. Yeah, I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm that guy. Our first D tier goes to Hero, because to be honest, I'm not the hugest fan of Hero, and she really doesn't have anything I really like about her. Like, sure, I know like a lot of the people would probably call me out for like blasphemy for rating Hero so low, because you know, I'm sure there's a lot of internet simps out there who love their dommy mommy energy, but it just doesn't do it for me. And Hero's voice doesn't match her character, like her design. I don't think her, like being like, I mean, I guess it's part of the whole. Like, I don't know if people are gonna call me out as a hypocrite because I like Mercedes in Fire Emblem Three Houses, and they're kind of similar. But I don't know, like when it's Hero though, I don't quite feel it. And there are other things about Mercedes in Three Houses that I do like about her character, which Hero doesn't really have. And because of that, I can't rate Hero very high. Now I know I could, in some cases, I could bump up Hero to C tier at least, because yeah, we get it. She's like the hot one of Rondo, and because of that, she has like some of the best designs in like her character cards. Like her and Marika have like the best designs because Marika's a model and Hero's a cosplayer, so naturally they would have better designs, and they put them in the like better poses because they would know how to pose as like models, quote unquote. Hero's case, she's a cosplayer, but kind of the same thing. But aside from that, Hero really doesn't have anything else for me. She doesn't have a lot of interesting character moments for me. And I mean, even in those moments where she's being vulnerable, for instance, like her claustrophobia, her insecurities about like what to do with her life, that just makes Aoi and Nagisa look better. Which we'll talk about Nagisa real soon. But like that would make me like Aoi more. When like Hero is like the story could try and paint Hero as being endearing when whoops, sorry. Crap, there you go. Like they try to paint Hero as being endearing in those moments where like Hero's like her claustrophobia is showing or something. But honestly, it makes me appreciate Aoi and Nagisa more than it makes me appreciate Hero. So, with that said, Hero D tier because she really doesn't do anything for me. Next we have Nagisa. Nagisa kind of mid. Now, even though Nagisa has a good design and has a lot of really cute game cards in Movie Mix, one thing that made me actually not like Nagisa was that Nagisa is not quick to admit when like Nagisa's clearly the problem in like some of the disputes that happens in Rondo. So in the relation event with Nagisa and Tsubaki, there's that whole thing where like they kind of have disagreements in like how they do things. And then like Nagisa doesn't own up that like it's technically like Nagisa started the problem, and then it led this whole thing with like Tsubaki like blaming herself, and there's like a whole ass like part of that chapter. It's just Tsubaki blaming herself, and it's all Nagisa's fault. And Nagisa hardly does anything to like own up to it. And I guess it's like I guess the problem is that like Nagisa is very immature for an adult, if that makes sense. Because well, characters don't age, so Nagisa's technically 21, but because the game's been out for 2 years and the game's had 2 birthdays, technically, you know, all the girls are of age, technically. But anyway, besides the point, Nagisa for a college student acts extremely immature. And like, it's one of those things that like, you know, when you're a teenager and you relate to like immature adults, but as an adult, and you look at an immature adult, you just go like, ugh. And Nagisa kind of does that. So, now you think that like, Hiro's a better character in that regard, but see now, because I said I have to put Nagisa on D tier, which makes it weird that like Rondo's getting the lowest rating so far if you average out the groups. Like Photon's pretty high because it's got Sokka S tier. It's got an A tier. Happy Around is like A tier, S tier, 2 B tier. Mermaid is super high. Mermaid may arguably the highest, like on average. And then here's Rondo just like looking bad in comparison, but I guess it's just how it be. And finally well, not finally, but now we're gonna move on to the last main group, and that's Lyrical Lily. We're gonna start with Miu. Miu, this is a tough one. This may be one of the toughest ones I have to rate. Let's put Miu in A for now. Even though, like, I'm tempted to put her in S tier, because I really like Miu. Miu's that character that's grown on me the most. I really like Miu's character. She's such a sweetheart. I mean, the whole idea is that, like, she's supposed to be, like, the little angel of the group. I mean, her promotion item in Groovy Mix is, like, Miu's Halo. It's like, she's the little angel of the group. I think Miu is just so adorable. She's so endearing. But I think one of the problems with Miu, and why I don't think I can put her in S tier, is that Miu doesn't grow as much as other characters do. Like within like Lyrical Lily alone, she doesn't grow that much. She grows a little bit, but not as much as other characters do. Even though, like, ironically, that story was really about like Miu accepting the need to be forceful. That was the whole point of that. And then the whole meme about like the Lyrical Lily side origin is all like a JoJo reference, and like JoJo memes all over the place. Because it's meant to like have Miu kind of grow as a person, to like be more forceful and adapt her philosophy so that she could be competitive, to accept the Abysmare challenge that's the game event, instead of doing like 3 D-Fests like back to back like that. They kind of need to move away from the D-Fest thing for a little bit, and the Abysmare kind of provides that. But save for that. Miu doesn't grow that much, and then of course when you watch the anime, Miu doesn't grow that much there either. I mean, in the episode with like when Lyrical Lily and Photon Maiden have their training camp thing, it's really like it really focused more on Photon Maiden if you think about it, because of course it makes sense, because the Photon Maiden episode had a lot to do with like how Photon Maiden will change, and then Lyrical Lily is just kind of there to help them. And so, because of that, like, once again, Miu doesn't grow that much there in the anime either. And so, I can't bump up Miu to, like, S tier, but I really like Miu a lot. I really do. I think she's a great character. She's always endearing to, like, read her dialogue. Oh, I totally didn't mention this with, Rondo, but Nagisa's the fat girl of the group. But anyway, I sidetracked it there. But not much else to say about Miyu. I like her a lot, but I can't put her in S tier because she doesn't grow enough as a character. And I mean, her whole relation with Saori, as I mentioned earlier, is that it shows Saori is, like, the point of that story is to show how much Saori has grown. But the contrast is that Miyu is somewhat emotionally stunted. And that Miyu does act like a child quite a bit. Which is hilarious because Miyu is like standing next to Kurumi and Miku, who also act like children despite the fact that they're teenagers. And remember, all these girls are the same age. Okay, yeah, like Miyu is the youngest character outside of Unicorn, but even then, Miyu is still kind of depicted as being a giant baby at times. We'll see what happens. Like, obviously we just had that Lyrical Lily side origin story. Excuse me. Burping into the mic there. But we'll see how much of that growth is maintained in Miyu's character. If it actually sticks, then she might be able to go to S tier. But for now, we're just gonna leave her in A tier. Although I do find her super cute as well, and her card designs are phenomenally good. So that's why she gets an easy A tier. Next we have Haruna. Not Haruna B tier. I was almost willing to put her in lower, but I mean, there's that whole, like, one reason why I might want to put her in C tier is because, you know, the whole joke of her being, like, overly strict and the whole chairwoman thing, it does, that joke get stale, but I can't pin that on Haruna alone. That's like a Kurumi and Haruna problem. Is that dynamic exists, and that joke gets old real quick. Because, like, you think about it, like, anytime they interact, any story where they interact, that joke always comes up, and it kind of gets stale pretty quick. And I thought, like, see, the problem is that, like, I actually like Haruna's design. Haruna has really good designs, which is what might bump her up to a B. But let's talk about her problematic characteristics. And we'll see if they're bad enough to keep her in C tier. But another thing that makes Haruna kind of a bad character is that Haruna's like emotionally volatile. That is kind of not good. Because one thing that, like, okay, so here's the thing. I didn't address this issue, but throughout D4DJ, there's like a lot of, like, not just within fandom, because fandom is fandom, so all they do is, like, ship characters. But the way that, like, part of the whole, like, shipping characters thing that's problematic in D4DJ is that, like, of course it's gonna be just all girl-on-girl action because, well, your cast is predominantly all female. So that's just gonna be how it is. But at least with, like, a lot of the other, like, ships with, like, Mooney and Rinku, Aoi and Tsubaki, you know, it's pretty like consistent and it's stable, if that makes sense. And Haruna just throws that just out the window. She is not consistent, nor is she stable. And so she, like, simps for tons of other girls. And so it just kind of, like, Haruna's all over the place. There's no, like, any of her emotional potential, like, romance stories. They don't really pan out very well because Haruna's just all over the place. It's hard to keep track and it's hard to care when that happens. Because I want to contrast Haruna with, like, Mooney in the anime. So in the anime, they actually were playing with the idea of, like, Mooney being in love with Rinku. And so that is an easy sell because the story makes it feel organic and it's very like linear in its progression of how Mooney acts towards Rinku with this kind of romantic idea that she has. And then you look at like Tsubaki and Aoi. It's been pretty consistent throughout the entirety of like their interactions. But Haruna's just all over the place, and because there's that lack of focus on like how they want to play around with the idea of like Haruna having a romantic interest in another character, it's not done very well, and it's very off-putting. Like, she sims for Aoi, she sims for Miyu, she even sims for Saori a little bit. Yeah, she's just all over. She's just like, between the three of them, she's just all over the place. And so, it's hard to really like cheer for Haruna, and thus makes her less likable than other characters. I don't know, that's just how I feel about Haruna. Next we have Kurumi. Kurumi's super cute, which might actually keep her in the B tier. But once again, the Kurumi being the prankster thing, it's fun for the first 5 minutes, but it does get a little like tiring after a while. Although I will bump Kurumi up and keep her in B tier, because damn, her confession to Haruna was like, that hit. That was like, damn, that was slick. But yet Haruna's just too volatile to notice, so oof, I guess. But for reference, in the side origin story of Lyrical Lily, there's a part where Haruna's like all mad at Kurumi. She chases her into like a gazebo, basically. And while they're there, Kurumi, and this is where like Kurumi's character bumped up from like a C tier to a B tier. But when Kurumi just straight out calls out Haruna for always picking Miyu's side because it's Miyu kind of thing, and Kurumi just challenges like the girls in Lyrical Lily to be like, why don't you think for yourselves? Think about what you really want. And during that whole like spiel, Kurumi talks about how like I want to see all your reactions. I want to be part of I want to be there at every moment of your life, kind of thing. And it's straight up a confession that Kurumi just gave to Haruna. And you're just like, damn, bruh, like that really just happened. But it was awesome. It's awesome. Oh, crap. Let's widen this a little bit. Because I noticed that thing at the bottom started showing up because I've removed a lot of the characters. Let's expand this a bit. There you go. Anyway. And because of that, I'm going to bump Kurumi to a B. I wish he wasn't the hugest fan of Kurumi. Because, once again, the prankster thing gets old real quick. But Kurumi, one, she's pretty cute. And two, her character development, she actually has character development compared to other Lyrical Lily girls, and I like the direction they're going with her. So, B tier for Kurumi. Poor Miku. Miko, sorry, I almost said Miku. Miko, you're getting the D tier. Because, I'm gonna say this, once again, even though there's like D tier, I can't say like I dislike any of the characters. I actually like them all to an extent. But obviously, like, some characters are just way better than others. Like, way better than others, kind of thing. But I would say Miku is my least favorite character of D4DJ. That doesn't necessarily mean I dislike her. But everyone else is just better than her. And with that said, if that's going to be consistent, she's got to be rated at the bottom. That's just how it is. Alright, so we've done the 6 main groups and are already an hour and 20 minutes. I'm gonna just power through the last groups, kind of give quick ratings. So let's start with the Call of Artemis. So I guess Irie's technically the leader. I mean, technically, what's her name? Mono is the leader because she's the one who got everybody together. But Irie's gonna be B tier because she's like the one that's around. And, you know, when she's see, this is the funny thing too. This is where like Irie's that character that really shows how divergent Groovy Mix and the second season of the anime are. Because in Groovy Mix, Irie no longer works at the cafe, even though if you look at the world map, in the map menu, Irie is shown at the cafe, but technically, in the story of Groovy Mix, Irie no longer works at the cafe. Whereas in the anime, she clearly works there and still gives lessons to Tsubaki and Kyoko at the cafe. So it's kind of weird. And now, like with Irie, the weird thing is that like she's technically two characters now. So since I said at the beginning of this video that I'm gonna prioritize Groovy Mix, she's gonna go down to C tier because her just being in like Call of Artemis, she's just kind of there, and her motivations for joining Call of Artemis, she's a lot more vague. She just says, "Oh, I want to be an inspiration for the next generation." That's kind of like a very broad idea. Whereas like, okay, yeah, whatever, right? Like, it doesn't really hit, and so. Sure, like, Irie has a great design. She's super good looking. I really like her design, actually. But she doesn't really have much else. And once again, like, the Call of Artemis girls, there's not a lot to them. Shano, on the other hand, I'm gonna put her in B tier, maybe even A tier. I'm gonna put A tier. Because Shano, I like her design. I know people are gonna call me out for shit on this, because Hiro and Shano clearly are very similar looking. Not as similar as Ali and Tsubaki, which is actually kind of hilarious. I'm surprised I didn't mention that. But this video is long enough as it is. But one thing that really made me like Shano is that Shano's motivation to join Call of Artemis is actually really well thought out. And if you remember before D4DJ 2, there's that whole thing where when the Call of Artemis members talk about their motivations. And why I rate Irie down a little bit was because Irie's goal is very vague. But the way that Shano has a very specific goal, and it's actually a very interesting one, where she's like, I will inspire the Photon Maiden girls to be like the best they can be, and I'm going to be that obstacle that they must overcome. And that was a pretty badass moment, I think. And there's that whole funny thing in that event, in that story, where Mono makes fun of her after Shano says that, and she's like, "What are you, their mom?" You talk about their ambitions and goals, and you even call the Photon Maiden girls your girls. And then Shano's just like, well, yeah, I did say that, didn't I? So, I really like Shano because of that. And I mean, once again, like, Photon Maiden is my favorite group, which is weird because I didn't put, like, two of their members, like, top tier. But that's because, like, Saki's just straight up carrying, and Toa's pretty great, too. But once again, it's not like I don't like the girls in the B tier. I mean, like I said, there's no one here I dislike, per se. But I really like Shano and her motivation to like drive the Photon Maiden girls, and that's why she gets an A tier. Toka, I think that's her name. I can't remember. Toka's kind of forgettable. Toka is like that super introverted kind of like you just do your job and then you don't think about much else. That's Toka. And because of that, like, Toka, you know what's funny is that, like, I actually got the Toka cards, like, in the event where they released the Call of Artemis girls and you can get, like, Call of Artemis members. Toka was the one I got. I got like 2 copies of her, and I even got her birthday one. I didn't get any of the other ones, so oof. But aside from that, like, Toga doesn't really have much else. She's not a bad character, but I mean, maybe she's D tier because she kind of is in the same place as like Hero. Well, no, Hero has things I dislike, whereas like Toka kind of is just whatever. She doesn't really do it for me. Finally, we have where is she? Mono, Mono B tier, I guess. Mono's outgoing personality is kind of endearing. And she is the one who put Call of Artemis together. And she also is, like... See, the thing is, like, once again, I rated Shano a lot higher because her motivation was very clear-cut. The rest of them are very vague. Like, Irie just wants to, like, inspire the future generations. Vague. Toka is, like... She wants to try new things, like super vague, and then like Mono's also kind of vague, where it's like I just want to be with you guys. But I mean, it's still more concise than Irie and Toka, so maybe she gets the B tier because of that. Although, like, one thing about Mono that maybe like I might bump her down, maybe I'll leave her in B tier, is that like Mono does talk way too much. I mean, then again, I know I can't. Who am I to talk? Who am I to comment on Mono talking too much? I've already been yammering on for an hour and a half. So let's get this thing done. Let's talk about Abyssmare. Let's just do a quick run through them. Technically, they were before Unicorn, so it counts. Neo. Ooh. Neo kind of mid. I'm tempted to put her higher up. But at the same time, there's not enough story for Neo. But after the story event of finding Neo, and you learn a lot about her character, it does make I'm excited to see more of Neo's character, and so I'm interested in Neo quite a bit, but that's not enough to put her like a high tier, so C tier. Next is Elsie. Elsie's cute. I really like that she's not good enough to be B tier. It's tough though. But like, her sassy attitude also like bumps it down for me. Now here's the thing though, that's kind of tough as I'm rating like the Abyssmare girls. I don't want to like bump them down because of one, their low availability, like they're pretty new characters. So there's still a lot to learn about them. And secondly, like they're the villain characters. So there are things about them that are meant to be unlikable. But I'm trying not to let that like pull them down. But like when Elsie can be like, she could be like a bad bitch, for lack of better words. She's got that like bad bitch energy, especially in like Finding Neo's story where like Sophia gets like harassed by scammers and Elsie just like goes in and just like sasses it up and shows the scammers who's boss. Like that was pretty awesome. And Elsie is like the mature one of the group. She's the one who's like, hey guys, we gotta be professional, we gotta be level-headed. Which is something like, the interesting thing is that the other units don't really have that. Like the Photon Maiden girls have that a little bit, and Ibuki does that. Like she reminds the other members to like be professional because Photon Maiden is a professional group. But a lot of the other units aren't professional, which is why they don't have that kind of... They don't have someone reminding the other members to act professional as like a DJ unit. But Elsie does that role, and I think that's very endearing, especially when Elsie does it, because Elsie's supposed to be like a little girl, and yet she can be like the mature one of the group, and there's just something like endearing about that. Next we have Veronica with a W. That's a tough one. Veronica is like similar to Mono. She's like very loud and talks a bit too much. But at the same time, like, I don't know, she doesn't have the design, I guess. It's okay. Although, once again, like, and hopefully we get more of this throughout the events as we get more of the main story. And that Abyssmare characters will go up. I'm hoping that, because Veronica, I want to see more of her character development. You know what? You remember how I said that there's probably a character in D4DJ I don't like? Well, I'm going to take that immediately back, because Sophie's an F tier. Because Sophie is just all the negative qualities of Saori, and she's like Saori and Haruna's negative traits, and then like dialed up to 11. Now, like, I was pretty harsh to Haruna about her like simping over like Miyu, but damn, like Sophia is so much worse. She is it's almost to the point that it's like kind of cringy. Okay, scratch that. It's not kind of cringy. It's just cringy. And I do not like Sophia. Like, even her hoodie, which is supposed to be like a dog, and there's a whole like, she's like Neo's dog. It's really whack. I don't like Sophia. That's all I can say. So F tier you go. We have a person in F tier. But I'll tell you this much, we ain't gonna get anyone else down here because we are talking about the Unicorn Girls, and I'm gonna say I like them. I like all of them quite a bit actually, and I really like this new story that they're doing in the game. That one focuses on the forming of Unicorn, and Unicorn being like a real contender against Abyssmare, which is gonna be an interesting story arc. But I really like Unicorn. Let's start with Michiru. Now, back in old school Groovy Mix, I would have put Michiru like down here because damn, Michiru is so annoying. She's really annoying. But excuse me. I also forget that like who her voice actor is, and her voice actor is pretty like she's pretty great. But, and it's funny that like, oh wait, that person's Michiru now? So before in the past, before she was part of Unicorn, Michiru was D tier. And that was because like Michiru was just so annoying. And then even in like the founding of Unicorn, the story brings up like another very negative trait of Michiru, which was that Michiru is very self-centered. But after like the recent events of like the Groovy Mix stories, Michiru straight up going B tier. Because her character is growing, and I'm really excited to see where she goes. I'm excited to see how she grows as a character in the main story. It's pretty great. I'm hoping to see improvements, and if she gets a lot of improvements, she's going to A tier, because I'm starting to like Michiru quite a bit. Next we have Kokoa. Is that her name? I forget. You know, that might be tempting to make her bump her lower because I can't remember her name. But she kind of mid. Once again, she has an unfair advantage. I'm excited to see all the Unicorn Girls grow. Maybe Kokoa will grow on me as a character, but right now she's kind of mid. She's kind of whatever. She's not the most impressive Unicorn member, at least story-wise. Her singing voice is pretty good. We'll put her girlfriend Hayate in like A tier though. I really like Hayate because her level of maturity is pretty amazing. And like, what's interesting is that like, even though Hayate and Kokoa are supposed to be in a relationship, unlike Haruna, Hayate doesn't simp for her own girlfriend. And that was actually something that made me like her quite a bit. And that really showed in the, what was it, the third Nova story. Yeah, it's called the Nova story. Now I remember what it's called. In the third Nova story, and there's that whole part with like Kokoa showing like, oh, I never want to work with Michiru. I hate Michiru, blah, 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 blah. And then Hayate doesn't immediately side with her. Hayate tries to be very like empathetic and play like both sides and be like, hey, why don't we like talk this out and actually like understand each other? And that really made me like Hayate actually. I really like her a lot because of that. Of how understanding she is. And that's something that, like, you know, this sounds like such a base, but people like Hayate is what the world needs a lot more of. People that are willing to listen, understand. You know, both sides of people's arguments, both sides of, you know, the good and bad of life. Hayate, we need a lot more Hayate in our world. I know, I said it. A tier. A tier you go. And finally, Lamina. Whoops. I'm gonna just put her here for now. That's not her official ranking, by the way. Whoops. No. I mean, you guys obviously know I'm using tier maker, but still. I just want to make this look better. There you go. Alright. Where am I gonna put Lamina? I like Lamina a lot. I like the virtual girl thing. It's cool. Don't know if it's S tier worthy. Definitely A tier. Might even be B tier, honestly. It's kind of a toss. I'll put her A tier though. Because Lamina, I guess the problem with Lamina though, and maybe I should bump her down to B tier because like she has unfair advantages being an AI program and an actual virtual girl. I swear though, the funny thing about Lamina is that like that's how Skynet is really gonna take over the world. Like one thing that's hilarious in the end of the Finding Neo story, where it's revealed that Lamina is an AI program, and then like Lamina then shows like how powerful she is. Like, okay, so she's straight up an AI program that has a ridiculous income. So straight up, like. Money is just being funneled into a computer void. Like, think about that. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, Lumina is gonna straight up take over the world. she's how Skynet will take over the world. But, I mean, Lumina's a pretty neat character. But once again, she has like a lot of unfair advantages because as an AI, she can do all kinds of things that she's not limited by. Let me rephrase that. She's not limited by a lot of things that people are limited by. So, Lumina doesn't have like airheaded moments like Maho, or she's not like she doesn't have autism like Saki. She doesn't have her like emotional stunted nature like Neo. She doesn't have. I'm trying to compare them. Like she doesn't have her like character flaws that bump her down like Kyoko and Noah. Because as an AI program, she can just set herself to be perfect. But the problem with that is that it doesn't allow for like standout moments. Because of course, like in any story, what makes a character stand out, what puts you in the S tier kind of thing, is that when you can overcome the thing that your debilitating weakness. When you can overcome that, that's what makes you not just a good character, but a great character. And that's what, I have for like Saki, Maho, and Rika to some extent. But like even Saori has like those moments where like I could argue with the Saori in S tier because of that. But because Lamina is so perfect, she doesn't get that opportunity. So even though she's a pretty great character, she's also kind of emotionally stunted because she's an AI program. She doesn't get that opportunity to grow and be like an amazing character. So there you go. This is my D4DJ character tier list. So we have just a quick review rundown of what we have here. We have we got Saki, Maho, and Rika in the S tier. I guess we can also, like, if there's any reconsiderations, because I know I kind of had to skip some stuff, and maybe I'll talk more about the game now. And maybe we might rearrange some people. But here are my favorite characters in D4DJ. Although Saori's up there, like, Saria is one of my favorite characters as well. Toa is one of my favorite characters. Like, Toa I could easily see putting in the S tier, but I'll just leave her in A tier. After all, I shouldn't put too many people in S tier. S is for sacred, and you know, here are our sacred girls right here. But you know, we got a number of A tiers, and Mooney gets the award of the character that grew the most for me, I think. Because like Saki and Maho, I kind of always liked them when I first saw them in the anime. I'm like, man, these characters are great. But like Mooney did not start out that way. Mooney would have been like down here in C tier, maybe even D tier. But no, Mooney just like went all the way up. So I really like her. I got quite a lot of like characters I really like. Like even among like the B tier, a lot of them I really like. And then the C tier is more like, oh, you know, kind of whatever. D tier has like very clear flaws that I really don't like about them. Haruna could arguably be down here actually, because Haruna's whole thing, but Haruna goes up because of her design. I think Haruna has a good design. Miko not so much. Why do I keep calling her Miku? Miko not so much. But I mean, you know, B is still pretty good, and this is where like once again the average would be, if you will. Because once again, like I kind of like for the most part every character except for you, Sophia. I don't like you, but everyone else I kind of like. At least I like them enough. Although I did give Bismare some like generosity points because there's a lot of potential, especially with Neo. There's a lot of potential, and so I'm hoping Neo becomes a much better character. So, and I hope Kakoa will grow on me as well. She has a lot of potential as a character. But characters that surprised me, of like characters I thought that'd be like, oh yeah, whatever. But that would be like, Hayate was a character that really like surprised me. I really liked her. I thought she'd be kind of like very boring in one note. But she was actually the better of the two between like Kakoa and Hayate. So Hayate was a character I really liked. And even like most of the A tier characters that are some of my favorites now. Even though like we have my favorites, but like A tier is full of characters I really like a lot. And I would say they're like favorites as well. So yeah, this is my tier list. And hoping that like obviously down the line things will change. Especially for like Bismare and Unicorn as more story content is released. But you know, there could always be cards and relation events that stand out. Like we're supposed to get the Rinku and Kyoko one pretty soon. So maybe that might bump them up. We'll see. And there's always room to change stuff here and change my opinion. But this is how it is now. I'm just wishing that D4DJ gets a third anime season soon. I mean, how long was it between the first two seasons? Like 2 years? I don't know if I can wait 2 years. I mean, that's why we have Groovy Mix, so I can always get more D4DJ content. But with that said, this is gonna be the end of this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed my D4DJ tier list. And don't forget to check out my other videos. We have our Octopath Traveler 2 streams. We are reading the Canterbury Tales on Fridays, and I have my Throwback Thursday Fire Emblem the Sacred Stones. So this video is kind of like an extra video. I kind of felt like I wanted to do it. Because I'm like, you know what? I haven't talked about D4DJ on this channel yet. Not like officially. But this is that video for you. And if you guys want to see more D4DJ content, you know, let me know. I'm always down for it. Because I'm actually like quite the fan of it. Oddly enough. Anyway, until the next video, guys. Hope you guys take care of yourselves. And God bless you. Good night, everybody.